everybody, welcome to the Healthy SBC Podcast. I'm Jeremy Sutton, your host. I'm here at Southern Hills Tennis Center, and I'm with Jill Zimmer, who's the director here. And we're going to be talking about tennis, pickleball, everything in between. Jill, thank you for being on the podcast.
You're welcome. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. Well, just tell us a little bit, Jill, about what you do here and how you came to do it.
Okay. So I'm the head director and head pro tennis and pickleball. I've been the tennis pro, I would say, almost 6 years, and the pickleball pro for 2. And I did not expect to be a pickleball person. It just kind of fell in my lap. And I grew up in my mother was very sporty. And so she was a softball coach, and I grew up on the softball field.
Okay.
I never played, but I was always playing with those girls on the softball field. And so I just learned some really good hand-eye coordination at a really young age. And so she was also a basketball coach. And so I just grew up around it. But anyway, I got married at 19, became a stay-at-home mom, and I did not start playing tennis until I was 32 years old.
Okay.
So I started off late in life.
Right.
And I was just at a little kids thing at a Chick-fil-A, and this girl came up to me, and we just started talking, and we became friends. And she's like, you know what? My husband is a tennis pro out at Stonebridge. She's like, would you want to come and play sometime? And I was like, no. I am not a tennis person. I don't want to do that. I'm not a country club person.
Right.
And so she was like, no, it'll be really fun. I've never played either. You know, it'll just be something different. And I was like, oh. So it took her a while to kind of motivate me to go out there. So I did. I met her husband, and he was Australian and had this big personality and all this kind of stuff, and made me feel, pretty comfortable.
Right.
And so we get out there and we start hitting, and I kind of learned that I did have good hand-eye coordination. And he came up to me and he's like, Jill, you can be probably pretty good at this. And I was like, and so he's like, come next week to the clinic. I was like, okay. So we started going there and each week. And so my friend was like, all right, let's do a league, because I started doing really good.
Sure.
and started getting compliments like, oh, you're gonna be really good and all this kind of stuff. So then I was like, okay, did my first league, won the first match, and I was like, okay, all right, well, I can do this. Getting a little bit further on, I started kind of researching some stuff on tennis and the other clubs in town and coaches and all this kind of stuff. And I reached out to Grady Wilson. He was one of my coaches. Todd Killen, one of my favorites, and Steve Smith.
Okay.
And so I had 3 different people I was working with, and plus Duncan. And just moved up really quickly. And so I had goals set for myself. Like, okay, by this point in my tennis, I want to be at this level.
Right.
And so I just made a goal every year for myself to get a little bit better or work on this. And so it was just an outlet for me, being a stay-at-home mom and getting away, and I just felt connected to something. And so I got on these really good teams. Like, my goal was to be on a certain team, for them to ask me to be on their team. And they finally did. And so we went to state champs several years in a row, even on mixed. And so my mom was like, man, you're like really getting good and all this kind of stuff. And so I moved up quickly to a 4 or 5.
Yeah.
And so in 2019, I'd gotten a phone call. One of my friends, he's one of the principals at Airline. And he was like, hey, I got a favor. And I was like, uh-oh, what? And he said, do you mind helping us coach the Airline team, or being the Airline coach?
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa, Trey, I don't know about this. He's like, just come try it. If you don't like it, you don't have to do it. So I thought about it for a little bit, and I went out there, and I absolutely fell in love with these kids. And so I just remembered all the things that I learned, from Grady and Todd and Stevie and all them. How to start out, beginners, because these kids had never hit a tennis ball at all. So I go out there, fell in total love with these kids, and they never hit a tennis ball. I'd gotten them to start hitting, and they actually made it to state within 2 months.
Wow.
They didn't do great at state, but at least they did something. And I was like, okay, I really might have something here. And my mother was really extremely proud of me because she was a coach her whole life. And so that's what I grew up seeing. And just seeing her interaction with her and her girls on her team and how much she loved them and that team sport, just being a leader for them. And that just really, I don't know, it just felt good to me. It was feeding what I needed.
Right.
So I become the airline coach for a couple of years, and my mother was extremely proud of me. Everywhere we'd go, she'd be like, "This is my daughter, she's the airline tennis coach, blah, blah, blah." And so it was 2019, and she died unexpectedly. And so that triggered something. I did not leave my house for like a good year and a half. I was in really deep depression over losing her. And I was just thinking to myself, what can I do that she would be so proud of me? And so I thought, I'm going to get certified. I'm just going to do it. I started asking Todd and, a couple of my coaches how I can kind of go about that. And, they told me who I needed to get in contact with, and I had to study for months, and, you have to hit certain targets, and so I was out there practicing and all this kind of stuff. So I get certified, and I'm over the moon, and I just knew that she would be so proud of me. And I had a friend that owned this at the time. His name was Tyler Sims, and he came to me and said, "Hey, do you want to work part-time out here?" And I was like, all right, I'll think about it, because I was in such a bad place. And I started working out here just like a couple of times a week. And I remember we were standing right there at that window looking down at the pickleball courts, and I was like, what in the world is that? And he was like, that is the future. And I was like, okay. Well, I worked here for a couple months before I even went down there to even try it, because I was just so tennis. And he would, I'd fill in for him with the Calvary kids every now and then, and because he had off campus with, coaching them. And so there's a women's morning group that meets every Tuesday and Thursdays down there. So I was like, I guess I'll go down there and just try it out. And the women down there were so sweet and welcoming. I don't know, it just really soothed my soul, what I needed.
It healed something.
It healed something in me. And so I go down there and play, and of course with a tennis background, you're gonna be good at that. Just there's some minor tweaks. So some of them started asking me, "Hey, would you give us a lesson?" I'm like, whoa, I'm tennis, I'm not pickleball. And they're like, so? So then I was like, okay, all right, I'll try this. And I did. And I thought to myself, okay, I can do this too. This is super easy. So I was at a conference in New Orleans that offered, it was a tennis conference, that offered pickleball to get certified in pickleball. So I told myself, I'm going to do that. So I get that done, I get certified in that, and my lessons start picking up. And the more that I got to know a lot of these ladies, they probably 90% of them all have some sort of trauma that they dealt with, a lost husband, a lost child, major things in their life. So it was not only soothing for them, because whenever they come to me, this is their outlet. And that one-on-one time, we're hitting, they're talking. We're hitting, they're talking. They're opening up to me about different things, and I'm thinking, I start opening up to them about things, and it just became, even though they come to me for like their therapy, they don't know how much that therapy was for me whenever I lost my mom, because it was just filling that void. There's a couple of them that's become like a second mom to me out here. And before I even took this job, standing there with Tyler, and it was just a part-time thing, he decided to leave. So they came to me and said, would you want this job? Or at least just be the interim, person, just filling in, and then you could think about it. I was like, okay, I don't know if I can run this facility. This is like a lot of stuff. And so I just went outside, looked outside at the sky, and I was like, Lord, you're going to have to write this out for me. You're going to have to put this in writing, because I cannot make up my mind. Well, I go back inside, go to bed, and I never check my phone. I don't know why I was up at, 3 in the morning, just wide awake, thinking about stuff. And I just checked my phone, and it was one of those group texts that go out to a whole bunch of people, but it was from a pastor in Africa. And I never click on stuff like that. But there it was, in a huge bold letters, just trust me, take the chance. And I was like, okay, all right, there's my sign, because it's written out. I just told you to write it out for me, and there it is. Yeah. And so then I went to who I needed to contact, and I was like, I'm taking this job.
Love it. Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
It's, I think, healing your heart through racket sports.
Yes.
And that camaraderie with people, as anybody I think that's ever been an athlete kind of longs for that athletic outlet again.
Yes.
I played football in high school, so I think, that's one reason I love pickleball, is because it gives me something to do. And I still, even though I'm not as athletic, even close as to where I was, I still want to beat people.
Yeah.
I still don't want to lose.
Right.
But it's nice. Like there's a church that we live in Benton, and almost seems like every church now has a pickleball thing. And so on Wednesday nights at Red River Baptist Church in Benton, we go and play pickleball.
Okay, I didn't know.
And my kids love it. They had a basketball gym that they converted into pickleball courts.
Awesome.
And so we go and play, and it's so much fun. My son's 10, he plays with me, and we play somebody else, and they're 10-year-old, and it's just a lot of fun.
It is.
I love it. And I love the, here in our community, it is blowing up. If it wasn't already, it is for sure now.
Right.
So you said something, Jill. So I posted something about pickleball one time, and it wasn't a tennis pro, but it was a tennis player said, pickleball's the dumbest game ever. I don't know why anybody would play it. It's so stupid. Play tennis. What is the deal between pickleball and tennis?
I don't really know.
Okay.
I think a lot of the old school tennis players, for some reason, don't like it. And I don't get it. I really don't get it. I don't understand it. Now, there is definitely a difference between the personalities, even though we're all human.
Yes.
There's a different dynamic between tennis players and pickleball players.
Okay.
I know I'm going to get some hate on this.
Who cares? It's all
but
right.
the tennis players are a little bit more uptight.
Yeah.
And your pickleball players are more relaxed.
Sure.
And so I think that's why, and it's a little bit easier to learn than tennis. Tennis, there's so many different, it's very complicated, or it can be, just learning out. It takes you way longer to learn how to play tennis versus pickleball. I can have you playing in a couple weeks.
Right.
So, and just the community, just the bond between all those people, it's really a great outlet for people.
I think that, I went over to the skills and drills thing over at, where am I trying to say? Bel Air.
Yeah.
I went over there one Saturday and did that. And, I was the only person under 65 probably there.
Yeah.
And I remember asking one of the guys, there was just me and one other guy, which is fine with me. I love being around women over 50. That's my favorite group. But I said, "Are you like a pro pickleball player?" And he goes, "We're about to find out, aren't we?" And I said, "Yes, sir." And I backed off. And, anyway, it was kind of funny because I'm not a great pickleball player, but at one point I was like beating him 7-0, and I just smashed the ball because I didn't want him to like stare at me anymore. And that's the only time I've ever done that to anybody because I'm so horrible. But it's so much fun, and it is more of a laid-back crowd.
Yeah, it is.
I went and I know Cypress Baptist had their first pickleball tournament, and I actually worked it and did some stretching. And just seeing the people play, like there was one guy that walked up, I'll never forget, and he had on knee braces, elbow braces. He looked like he could barely move, and then he was smoking the pickleball court. I mean, he was playing amazing.
Yes.
And I'm over there going, how on God's green earth is this guy moving?
Yeah.
But it's a mixed group, and I love it.
Yeah. We have a lot. I mean, there's definitely a lot of older people. That's your majority of your players. But I've seen so many young people starting with here in the past 6 months, I guess. I mean, a lot.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's crazy.
I talked to a friend of mine, Ross Giffens, this morning, and I told him I was interviewing you, and he said, my son, his 16-year-old, has fallen in love with it. Yeah. Him and two of his friends go every night of the week. He said every single night they play pickleball somewhere. Yeah. And he said some of the ladies have started calling them the Three Stooges, and he didn't even know who the Three Stooges were because he's 16. And but so it's starting to get a hold in the younger crowd too.
Yeah, it is.
What are the most injuries you're seeing with pickleball? What are the majority?
Well, I mean, I don't see anything that's that you don't see in tennis or football or anything. I mean, I guess I can see more of knee injuries just because everything's so lateral.
Right.
You're just moving side to side, and that's the only thing that I can think of about with my back. I mean, I do. Right. You kind of have to do reach a little bit, so your back.
That's the only thing I've tweaked so far playing pickleball. Is I reached back and I was like, "Ooh, that didn't feel great." And so then I just went and did some stretches. But I had somebody comment and say, running to the kitchen and having to stop is going to tear your knee up. And I'm like, well, you can run up to the net in tennis too and stop.
Yeah.
And I think the next night I almost ate the net trying to stop. So I was like, okay, maybe I was wrong. But no, I mean, it's the same in tennis. It's the lateral. Right. You got to rush up and things like that.
So it's not anything really different than.
What are the health benefits of playing racket sports?
Gosh, just getting out, your mental health.
Yeah.
I mean, that's huge. And just, actually, I have found that I get more exhausted playing pickleball than I do tennis.
Really?
Yes. I don't, whenever I started, I was like, God, I'm about to lose my heart. But anyway, it's just great exercise, just being outdoors and just laughing. Like, I love being down there and listening to those ladies laugh because they are just having a blast.
Right. And the pickleball too, like you already said, I mean, that's something we can play into our 80s, 90s.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, if you're active, then you can play it.
Absolutely.
And it's a very low barrier entry sport.
You got a smaller court, you don't have to, you can work around it.
Well, I mean, we got our first pickleball kit for like $60 at Academy. It came with like 8 balls, a net, and 2 paddles. Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, if I wanted to go play golf, I'm not going to get into it for $50.
Right.
Even I bought the cheapest golf clubs Walmart had when I was in physical therapy school, and they were $180.
Right.
Versus I can go buy a $10 pickleball.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not great, but I can start.
Right. Yeah. I tell you, it ain't great.
No, we know it's not great, but you can start. Right, but you can play in your driveway. You can start, and then you can go get the nice paddle and all that stuff.
See if you like it.
But it's really not that way with a lot of other things. Like golf is pretty expensive to get into. I mean, I love golf and tennis is great, but it's just so easy to get into pickleball.
Yeah.
What do y'all have upcoming in the area?
Well, I do like giving. We do this a couple of times a year, where we will give back to the community and do like a fundraiser for different organizations that want to come. And like this one is doing the Claws Up Booster Club for the Mudbugs.
Oh yeah.
That is November the 24th. We have that tournament coming up.
Okay.
So that's the Mudbugs will be out here, and so that'll be something fun.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
I took my kids to their first Mudbugs game last year, and they loved it.
Yeah.
And so now we're hooked on Mudbugs.
Yeah. So another one we got coming up in the spring would be we're helping out the Meals on Wheels people, and then something very close to my heart is Holy Angels.
Okay.
Like I'm definitely doing a fundraiser for them. Yeah.
I mean, that's what this podcast's about, and just our community just getting together
Yes.
and loving on one another.
Yes.
We have a great community in Shreveport Bossier. And then, I'm here, I've already told you 2 names even before we started. You're like, yeah, I know them. Well,
Yeah.
One's in South Bossier, one's in Shreveport. I mean, we're all connected. It's a small community, even though there's a lot of us here. And so we might as well help each other out
Right.
and do the best we can. I want to ask you one last question.
Okay.
Because I just thought about it. What tips do you have for somebody that wants to get into pickleball or tennis, just racket sports in general? What should they work on, or how should they get started?
Well, technique is key. You don't want to get into bad habits. You don't want to just go on court and just start swinging, because then you're going to develop terrible. I've seen it too many times. People going out there thinking they know how to play or something like that. Now tennis, that's definitely going to be different. There's a lot of technique and a lot of different grips and all that kind of stuff. But with pickleball, it's a little bit easier, but you still definitely recommend a clinic or a lesson just to kind of get you started. I usually work on forehand, backhand techniques, coming up to the kitchen, the dinks. That's probably the hardest part for me is the slow game coming from tennis, because I want to kill everything.
Yes.
And so I do try to teach people to slow the ball down, because that's what I'm working on myself. But it's super easy and it's just fun.
Yeah, it's for everybody.
It's for everybody.
I love it. Awesome. Jill, thank you so much for being on the
Thank
podcast.
you.